All right, it's great to be here today. Silkin is here with Dr. David Thompson and Amanda Graves, his office manager, practice manager. And we wanted to chat with them to just get their story, sort of what it was like when they got going with Silkin and where they are today. So great to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Awesome. So first question, I just wanted to dive into this with you guys is, can you give us a bit of a picture of where you were at before you met Silkin and what was the pain point? What was the challenge that brought you guys together with Silkin?
Well, sort of at the time, I don't know if we realized it, but it was almost like the building was on fire. We had our production wasn't where we kind of thought it should be. We were working late, long hours. There was a lot of chaos with the appointment schedule, and so we were kind of at our peak for our managerial skill. Yep. And so we thought, well, we needed help, and we didn't really know where to go. Mm-hmm. And so then we finally got talked to by Jody Sims, and she told us what we kind of needed to do. And basically, we did an interview, and she did a practice analysis, and said, "Oh, you need to hire more people." And at the time, we're like, "Well, you're crazy, Jody, because we can barely afford the payroll the way it was, you know." And so we we hired two more people, and all of a sudden, we saw our production go crazy, and we were getting out instead of 6:30, we were getting out at 5:00, 5:30 when we were supposed to, and we thought, "Oh, maybe there's something to these guys," and so. That's when we started to kind of pull the trigger, and that was in like August
18. So yeah, August of 2018. And kind of another big part of that too is when Dave presented it to me, I was fairly new to his practice with not a lot of actual experience in a practice manager role or an office manager role. But kind of one of the big things was after we talked with Jody, then we started doing reference checks with other clients that had used Silkin. And those were really big for us because we both talked to 2 or 3 separate clients that were current clients of Silkin's. Dr. Dave talked to some doctors, I talked to some office managers, and that was probably one of the biggest things that was like, okay, to hear their success stories really helped us be like, well, maybe this is something that we should really give a shot or try to figure out how to make it work. And that was scary too, because like Dr. Dave just said, we were barely making payroll, maybe or maybe not having a paycheck for him. And all of a sudden you have this big upfront cost too that we had to kind of try to come up with. And that was super scary for me. Like, yeah, it was a big deal for us to be like, how are we going to make this work? But we got really creative really fast, and Silkin worked with us that first year, which was really great too, is on kind of working out like a little bit of a payment situation. And so that helped us be able to pull the trigger. So
that's great. So that's interesting. Just so that our viewers and people that might watch this, give us a sense of your practice, because we didn't get a chance to touch on that. Is it a rural practice, a medium city area? Where are you? Like,
so we're in Mitchell, South Dakota.
Okay.
Our practice name is Creekside Veterinary Clinic. Mitchell's about a town of 15,000, and we're a mixed animal practice. We do about 85% small animal and about 15 to 20% large animal, mainly cow-calf on the large animal side. And so when we started as a startup in 2015, and basically worked out of a trailer house on the west side of the parking lot when the building was being built. And I think we had 2 clients when we started, and then we, in May of 16, we moved into the new building, and so we were really young and really fresh, and so we had initially just had a lot of growing pains, and I think, and as at the time we thought we were pretty controlled, but then looking back on it,
No.
we weren't, not at all.
Not at all.
I mean, we didn't have any control. And if we did had any control, we didn't know how to implement it. And by what I mean by that is like protocols or any job descriptions.
We had nothing.
We had, basically nothing. And the stuff we did have, we didn't hold anybody accountable for, and so it didn't work. And,
So it was like management by flying by the seat of your pants.
100%.
oh yeah,
And everything went. We got whatever somebody came up with. Like, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah,
let's just do that. Let's just do that.
Sounds like a good plan. Let's try it.
Yeah.
Let's try it. And so yeah, it was pretty wild. And you know, the cool part was that once we started with these guys, I think after our first year, you know, Amanda mentioned the upfront cost and, you know, and everything. After our first year, I think we were like 400% of our return on our investment. And so it was huge eye opener, you know, and, you know, so then after that first year, we were making payroll pretty easy. We had hired more people. We had, you know, and we were getting out earlier and earlier, and you know, to where, you know, we were almost doubling our production and getting out on time.
Right.
So you could have a weekend again.
You could have a night.
You could have an evening.
Yeah. I mean,
You know, it was awesome.
Yeah. And that was one of the biggest things that, like, one of the first things that we wanted to make sure that we implemented was putting in control into our appointment calendar, our schedule for the doctors and throughout the medical, you know, the day for the medical team, because we would shove so many things into such a short period of time. And we had clients that would be waiting an hour and not even being seen. I mean, it was just total chaos all the time. And our girls were not getting out of here. Our team were not get out here until, like, you know, 7 o'clock so frequently. And we closed at 5. And, you know, just because we were so behind for the day, we're still seeing appointments, you know, an hour past closing time. And so that was like our biggest goal when we first started with Silkin, is we wanted some help on how to do this. And we both expected when we went there that we're like, okay, this is our problem and you guys are going to tell us how to solve it and it's going to be fine. And that's one of the beauties about Silkin, is they don't do that for you. They give you all the tools to learn how to do it yourself and how to implement it. And then they support you the entire process. Like, I remember we came home from part A, I was like, well, they didn't tell us how to do the schedule. Like, I thought they were going to say, you do this schedule from this time,
this is how you do it.
You know, and it wasn't like that at all. But they gave us all the tools to figure out what needed to happen in our practice versus somebody else's practice. And then Jack and the entire team supported it through that first year. I mean, and that was just, like, that's just one example of the things that we needed to implement right away, was getting control over our appointment schedule. And now we have so much control. We know exactly how much time it takes for anything from a nail trim all the way to a mature health package, you know, and that's how our appointment calendar is out there.
Yeah. You now have systems in place to control each aspect of the business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every aspect.
Yeah. And then also putting in job descriptions.
Yep.
You know, we were able to, we didn't have hardly any job descriptions at the time. And then nobody was here to hold anybody accountable for their job. And so once we got all the job descriptions together, finally getting those implemented and making sure that people were actually doing the job that we wanted them to do. And it took out so much of the guesswork, you know, the employee guesswork. It took out guesswork for the person that's holding them accountable, because before that it would sort of change depending on, everybody kind of did things their own way.
Yeah.
And then we got to define that. No, the front desk does it this way. Med team does things this way. You know, and then those people became professionals of their own section. And it was after we were able to kind of define that and get that, because before it was like, well, no, everybody's got to do everything. We had people answering the phones that should never ever been answering the phones
and taking appointments and squeezing them in.
Doctors,
doctors
we were horrible at it. right? Because we're like, oh yeah, just come on in, we'll get you in, we'll work you in.
So proud of
And
them.
then we'd be here till 7 o'clock, you know?
Yeah.
And so we ended up, you know, so then the front desk, that was part of their job description. You're the only people that answer the phones. You're the only people that can schedule appointments,
Yeah.
except for rechecks. And so then we're able to, they're the ones that control that appointment book. So we're
You
not,
guys can't mess
well,
it up.
we can't mess it up, yeah, for them.
Yeah.
And so it's great. So that was just one aspect
Yeah.
of maybe 100 things that we've done and implemented. And of course we have that support, right? Every 2 weeks we were talking to Jack, our consultant, and Jack would walk us through. Okay, he would basically just ask a series of questions to get us to answer. We would end up answering our own question by the end of the call. An hour call, we would have a problem that we wanted to discuss with him, and at the end of it, we had figured it out on our own. So then that
Like a guide.
Yeah, he would guide
he
us
would guide us.
to it, but we would be the ones answering
Always.
the question and or figuring out the problem, the solution to the problem. And he was great about that. Now that's what we do on our own.
Yep.
You know, we still consult with Jack. We've been at it 3.5 years, almost 4.
Yep, that'll be, yeah.
And Jack, we still talk to Jack every 2 weeks. You
Yeah.
know, but you know, if we got something that, you know, we need to spitball or
Yeah, and it's very few and far between now, because Jack will be like, oh, do you guys have any fires to put out? We're like, no, that's, you know, and then we'll knock on wood, but we're like, it's been going pretty good right now. And so, but then something random will happen and we're like, oh man, we need Jack.
Yeah. What should we do about this? Hey,
Yeah.
we ran into this situation where, you know, what kind of guidance can you give? And he's, I mean, I don't know how they put their consultants with their clients, but Jack was like the perfect person for us. Cause I mean, he's just like us. He's a little bit goofy.
We have a
Because
good
we
time,
are.
yeah.
And we just had a blast. And it was like the first time we met him, you know, because we were flying to Portland from South Dakota, and you're like, oh man, what's this gonna be like? There's all these unknowns. And then we meet Jack that first night, and it's like we're there till like midnight or something, just you know, talking this stuff over, and you know, it's great.
Yeah,
that is awesome. Well, that's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And now I would like to give us a sense of now where you're at today, 3.5 years later. You know, coming from a trailer in a parking lot in 2016, getting Silkin in 2018. Now it's 2022. Where are you guys at today?
Well, we're getting ready to expand.
Yep.
So we started the clinic's a 2 exam room clinic right now. At the time, that was the projections that we could make it work, and we did. And so now we're getting ready to double our exam room space, double our treatment space, and increase our lodging by about 10 spaces. And so without them, we wouldn't be doing that right now for sure. You know, we've got about 22 employees total. And, you know,
so you 22 employees now. Back then there was 2 of you.
No, I wasn't even here. Yeah.
Yeah, there was like 8.
Okay.
8 or 9. Yeah. So I didn't join Dr. Dave's team until right before we started with Silkin. So I came in like February of that year, I guess. And then in August is when we started. So, but yeah, we've grown a lot. So,
and every time we kind of implement new things, we end up getting more people, more support staff, you know, and it's counterintuitive to think about, but like, you know, the more people you got, the more facilitated your doctors can be, and the more work you can do, and more patients you can take care of. And, you know, and so, and, you know, and that's what going back, that's what we had ended up finding, that we didn't have enough support staff to do the diagnostics. And we would end up just treating because it's 4, 5, 6 o'clock and you wanted to get the heck out of here. And so now we've learned that, you know, the more people we have around, the more production, the more patients we can see, the more things we can do. And that's been a real big eye opener for me, you know, because and now we've, I think everybody's got a pretty good pay. And last year we were actually able to give everybody a health insurance, and we pay 50%. And so we're, which was something I wanted to do from the beginning, but just couldn't afford it. I get a paycheck every couple weeks.
How are your lives? How would you compare your lives to then to now? Your personal lives? Like, how does it affect your households?
You get more time off. I get more time off. Amanda gets a little bit more time off. We've got busy children, and so we're able to spend more time with them. It's you get to do a little bit more of the things that you've always wanted to do. One, because you're more financially stable. Two, because you just have more time to do it. We still work a lot.
We still work really hard, but
initially the getting things to where they needed to be, we worked our tails off, but once it was set, now all you got to do is tweak it every now and then. You know what I mean? We're constantly, some of those original protocols that we wrote, and we'll get to that in a minute, but we're still tweaking them to get them updated. Every so often we'll find out there's a hole in the protocol and then we got to fill it. And so that's been really good.
Going back to the question about how, getting time off, like that was a big thing, was like, we're trying to get away from what traditional veterinary medicine was, that you work your tail off, that you're abused by clients, that you're abused by patients, you're abused by your employer. We're trying to get away from that. But when we started adding more team members, that was huge. And so like our pretty much everybody in the building, and we have our medical team, our front desk team, our lodging team, and we have 2 stylists, and then our management team. But everybody works a 4-day work week. So everybody gets a full day off during the week, which is great. We're here on Saturdays for half days now. It used to be full days, now it's just a half day, which is huge for the team. Our medical team, with the exception of the doctors, like their on call is about once every 7 to 8 weeks for a week, and so we have been able to implement, by being able to add more team members, a better life for, a better schedule for them as well. We went from having a 45-minute lunch to getting to have an hour lunch now. We've really been able to work in our schedule to make sure that, our team is getting breaks during the day and they're not just, working nonstop all day long. So those are, they're kind of seem little things, but they've been huge things for the team, really big things for the team. We love, one of the things that Silkin talks about a lot is to play games and to reward our team like no tomorrow. And it's so fun. Because they work hard. If they hit their goals, they get some sort of a reward, whether it's anywhere from a gift card to new sweatshirts or apparel to, big goals. Like we have a 6-month goal. We did this a couple years ago now, right before COVID hit. And this was one of our biggest things from part A and part B that we wanted to do, is if the girls met their 6-month goal, we had this huge surprise day for them. So we spent, they had no idea what was happening. We rented a bus. We took it over to a big city about an hour from us. We pull into the mall parking lot and they have no idea what's happening. And they had 1 hour to spend $200 on themselves. They couldn't buy anything for their kids, their husbands, their friends, anything. It had to be on they had 1 hour to spend this money. And if they didn't spend it, they had to give it back to us. And then we donated it to one of our charities. But it was just so fun. And they had gift bags in the car or in the bus. And then we took them downtown to this like really cool restaurant that they could do whatever they wanted. They could drink whatever they wanted. They could order whatever they wanted. We had like the best day, and it's so fun, and it's so cool. And we've continued to do those things, like every year. So we're right in the middle of another big goal right now to kind of do a bus again and go axe throwing,
Oh, wow. Cool.
Like that. So they're so motivated by these rewards, which is great. We would have never done that. We would have never thought about rewarding these kind of things without, and that was from the beginning, like our very first Silkin
or even have the marker to know if we hit the goal.
Sure.
Right. We might have had, we would have loved it, the goal, but now we have statistics to show us, okay, this is the goal you're leaning towards. this is how you get there, this is how close you are. So we've got there's so much of that now. And we're able to make better decisions as the executive group to figure out, well, what should we do next, right? Where's financially, right? Do we need this piece of equipment? Do we need, what other things can we do better? And we base it all on statistics. And so we're not numbers people, right? I mean, we're
no.
People. But it's so
black
simple
and white.
and so black and white that even we got
figured it out.
That is fantastic. Well, I don't want to stop you if you wanted to share something else, but I want to know, like, what would you tell another doctor that might be looking at Silkin or that you see needs Silkin? What would you want to tell them?
A couple things.
What are you going to go with first?
We're going to say it's a lot of work up front. But if you're gonna do it, you got to do it. 100%. Then if you're not going to go 100%, don't do it. You're going to say that.
It's exactly what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say.
And it is. It's
a lot of work, and it was hard, and it was super stressful at the beginning, but now
we kind of made it. My second thing.
Okay.
we kind of made it that way. The second thing is to slowly roll at the beginning, because when we did way too much too fast and looking back on it. Because we got back from that part A and we're like, oh, this is
what we have to do.
We can't win. And then we got back and we threw protocol after protocol after protocol, like every day. Boom, boom, boom,
and
boom,
remember,
boom.
our girls had no structure or protocol to begin with, and so they're like, "What are you doing to us?"
Their minds just exploded. It was so that was in retrospect, it was a little too much. And so that's part of where all that work came from, though, because we were like, oh man, we need a protocol here, we need one here. We saw like the writing on the wall, and we were like, oh, we need to just keep going on these. Well, it was so much information that nobody could, except, I mean, we could retain it a little bit because we were building it, but it was too much too fast. And so those would be the two things. And number 3 is plan on your people leaving. We had almost not 100% turnover, but.
And it wasn't right away. And that was one of the things when we were doing our reference checks is one office manager I talked to, she was like, your people aren't going to like it because they're used to doing what they're used to doing. And a lot of things was bad things, what they're used to doing. They're getting away with things that they shouldn't be doing, or they're not, they're not being good teammates probably. And when we first came back and we were a little bit over the top, we won't lie. We were pretty gung-ho, but that's just our personalities too. And we didn't see the turnover right away, but once we really started implementing things, once we really started putting things into play, once we really started holding people accountable and started managing the way we were supposed to be managing, that's when the people that were originally here didn't like it. And so we didn't turn over we turned over half of our staff in the last 3 years, but where we're at now is beautiful. Like, it's so great. And we don't have team members that were like, well, this is the way that we used to do it, and now you guys are all crazy and gung-ho Silkin, and we don't have that anymore. Everybody that's here is really bought into us and what we're trying to accomplish. And so that's huge, but it's hard. I mean, especially when you're invested in your people. And you
lose people that you thought were really on board with what you had.
But then they're
not. In reality, they weren't. No, and this is going to sound bad, but no person that we lost was we would want back again.
Well,
because they if they weren't toxic at the beginning, they became toxic because they did not want to conform.
They did not want to conform.
And that was okay. We got to the point where we're like, well, that's all right. If you don't want to do it, then don't do it.
But compare yourselves, like now you've got teammates that everybody's on the same page because they've got policy.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have less gossip. We
yeah.
have less backstabbing. We have better control.
Yeah.
We got, because then when people aren't doing what they're supposed to, all you gotta do is be like, hey, here's a protocol. This is what you're supposed to be doing. You're not doing it. Just go do it.
Yeah.
And then they're like,
Okay.
It's not like they can't even argue about it.
But what's also really great about that too is, besides us as the executive team, we were able to add leads in all of our departments, which has been huge support for us. But we're gotten to the point too, where it's not even a management or a lead person saying, hey, what's the protocol? Like the girls will say to each other and be like, well, what's the protocol state? And then they'll be like, oh yeah, we're supposed to do this. And I mean, we have a laundry protocol on how we're supposed to do the laundry and who's responsible. I mean, we broke it down from every medical protocol you can possibly imagine to the cleaning protocol. But at least, we're taking out the confusion and the guesswork for our team, and they just know what they're supposed to do and how to make it well. So
that is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it's been fantastic to spend this time to get this and hear your story. I don't want to cut you off if there's anything else you wanted to share, but I mean, I think that's a wonderful example of where you've come.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it forever.
Forever.
One of the big things too is we want people to know that there's a lot of challenges that come with it, that it's not easy. But Dr. Dave did mention it a few minutes ago. Like if you cannot go into it half-heartedly. Like if you're going to go in with Silkin and truly make it work the way it's supposed to, you have to give it your all, and you have to attend the session. I know they don't do the sessions in person as much as they used to, but do all the courses. All the courses build on each other. So when you do like part A and part B at the beginning, you get all this information and you think, how am I ever going to do this? Well, throughout the year, even if you do one course a year, it just builds on what you learn in that part A and part B to finalize it and make it better. And that's huge for us. Cause like, even when we continue to do these conferences or these, not conferences, but workshops, we're like, well, what are they going to teach us about this? We've already been through it. And then after 3 days of going through workshops, we're like, now we get it. Like it's very leveled for everything that you learn with your training.
That's, and so now you say how tough it is.
Yeah.
But is it worth it?
100%.
Oh, for sure.
Like it's so fun.
Yeah.
And like coming into work and like not having that chaos or that ebb and flow of what's our day going to be like it's steady and we're busy and we're producing, but we're laughing and having these great rewards and getting out of here at 5:05. I mean, and having full days off during the week. I mean, it's been huge. It's totally worth it.
It's good.
Takes away a lot of headache at the end of the day.
I have one last thing to say.
Okay.
For like doctors or owners, you have to find a good office manager. There is no doubt in my mind, if this person sitting next to me was not her, this would not be going on like it is. And so that is really, really important. I mean, really, you gotta have somebody that's like-minded with you.
Yep.
You gotta have somebody that is 100% on board. And I mean, you can argue. We do.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have to be. They have to be a partner in your work to make it happen. And I think that has to be a thing.
Yeah.
We work really well.
We work really well together. And even some of the conferences or workshops that we've been to, it's funny how people are like, oh my gosh, you guys do so much together, but otherwise it wouldn't work. Otherwise we'd be separated, and the medical team would be doing one thing because they're under Dr. Dave's leadership, and I would have some of the other departments, and we just don't do that at all. Like we have totally conformed that it's a team effort for everybody. And I mean, if you have a medical protocol, the office people know what it is. Like everybody has the same protocols, no matter what. There's nothing separate. So that's a big part of it too. So at least everybody knows what's going on. They can reference back on what would happen. So.
Well, that makes a great team.
Yeah.
That's awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with Silkin and sharing your story so everybody can be a part of it and know how it went.
Absolutely.
You bet.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.